This is a snow rabbit from Mount Yangmai, Yangshan. One day in 2023, I suddenly woke up. He crossed the sky with a blessing. In the video, we demonstrate the milk cotton model. The marshmallow model is softer and cuter. The hook method of the two rabbits is the same. Everyone chooses the line according to their preference. First annular needle. The first step is to knit the arm part. We weave a needle around the coil. Make a marking clasp on the short needle. Repeat knitting later. A total of 6 short needles were crocheted. Six stitches end. Tighten the coil. Pull the thread out at one time. Then at the position of the mark buckle, start knitting the second loop. First, add a needle to the first needle path. Knit 2 short needles. Make a marking buckle on the first short needle. Knit 2 short needles in each thread. A total of 6 needles are added to this circle. Knitting 12 short needles. End of lap 2. Then at the position of the mark buckle, continue to knit the third lap. The number of stitches in this circle remains the same. Knit a short needle in each stitch. Laps 4 to 6. Again, 12 stitches per circle. End of lap 6. On the 7th lap, needle reduction knitting begins. First, knit the 2 short needles in sequence. Make a marking buckle on the first short needle. Then cut a stitch from the back, knitting 1 to stitches, 1 stitch. Pick a thread on the first half of the needle to knit. Continue to subtract 1 stitch every 2 stitches later. A total of 3 stitches are subtracted. 9 needles remaining. The number of needles remains unchanged from the 8th to 11th
Knit
turns
9
in the
short
back. Needles per circle. On lap 12, continue to subtract 3 stitches. Subtract 1 stitch every other stitch. 6 needles remaining. End of lap 12. Last disconnect. Then fill the filling in the storage. After the arm part is completed, next we start to knit the leg part. First lock the edge and start the needle. Then knit 5 lock needles. Then return to the penultimate stitch. A thread of conditioning mountain on the back of the lock pin. Knit 2 short needles here. Make a marking buckle on the first short needle. Then knit the 2 short needles in sequence at the back. Then knit 3 short needles on the first lock needle. Turn to the other side, then knit 3 short needles in sequence. End of the first lap, and you do the second loop. First add a stitch to the first stitch. Knit 2 short needles. Make a marking buckle on the first short needle. Add another needle to the second needle. Knit 2 short needles. Then knit the 2 short needles in sequence. Then on the 3 stitches in the corner, Add 1 stitch each. Knit a total of 6 short needles. Turn to the other side, then make 2 short needles in sequence. Add a stitch to the last stitch. Knit 2 short needles. End of lap 2, and then you do the third loop. First knit a short needle over the first stitch. Make a marking buckle on the short needle. Then add a stitch to the second stitch. Knit 2 short needles. Weave a short needle over the third stitch. Add a stitch to the fourth stitch. Knit 2 short needles. Then knit the 2 short needles in sequence. Then add 3 stitches to the 6 stitches in the corners. Add another stitch, every other stitch. A total of 9 short needles are knitted. Turn to the other side, then knit 3 short needles in sequence. Add a stitch to the last stitch. Knit 2 short needles. End of lap 3. The number of stitches remains unchanged from the 4th to the 6th laps. Knit 20 to short needles in each circle. End of lap 6. On the 7th lap, needle reduction. Start by knitting 10 short needles in sequence. The end of the 10th stitch. Then subtract 4 stitches from the toe position. Knit 4, 2 stitches and 1 stitch. Pick a thread on the first half of the needle to knit. And then we knit the 4 needles in sequence. The 8th and 9th laps behind. Continue to reduce the needle at the toe position. A total of 3 stitches are subtracted from the 8th lap. End of lap 9. The number of stitches remains unchanged from the 10th to the 14th laps. Knit 13 short needles per circle. After the leg part is completed, and then we're going to knit the body parts. Body parts are still woven in spirals. Loop hook, short needle. Laps 1 to 5. Add 6 stitches to each lap. Add needles to 30 stitches. The number of stitches remains unchanged from the 6th to the 8th lap. Knit 30 short needles in each circle. And then on lap 9, we started to piece together the legs. Attach the legs to the body while crocheting. Knit a total of 5 short needles. Five stitches end. Normal knitting at the back. A total of 9 short needles were crocheted. Pin 9 ends. Then splice the part of the left leg. Again, crochet and connect. Knit a total of 5 short needles. Part of the left leg is spliced. Then knit 5 short needles in sequence. Then on the next stitch, the part of the braided tail, first in the same location, knitting 5 unfinished long needles. Finally, the crochet winding will pull the thread out at one time. Continue to knit normally. Later, a total of 5 short needles were crocheted. The leg part is spliced together. Continue to knit the body parts later. We knit according to the diagram for the specific number of needles. Just tick until the 16th lap. End of lap 16. Lap 17 begins to splice the part of the arm. First knit a short needle over the first stitch. Then attach the arm to the body. It takes up 3 needles. Normal knitting at the back. A total of 6 short needles were crocheted. Continue to splice the left arm on the other side. Also takes up 3 realize. The rest of the back. Then knit 5 short needles in sequence. After the part of the arm is spliced, the number of needles in the 18th circle of the face remains unchanged. A total of 18 short needles were crocheted. End of lap 18. And then finally, we put the filler inside the fabric. Then we use wool. The arm and leg parts fit the body for fixation. After the body part is completed, next we start to knit the head part. No need to disconnect later. Continue to spiral knitting short needles. Knit according to the number of stitches on the diagram. After the head part is completed, the part of the remaining ear behind, we use the same spiral weave. Change the shape of crochet by changing the number of stitches. Finally, we attach the ear to the head. Next we start weaving the bow part. First annular needle. Back lock to pins as ground pins. Then weave 3 long needles around the coil. Then lock to stitches. Finally, knit a lead needle. Repeat knitting later. First lock, 2 stitches. Then weave 3 long needles around the coil. Then lock to stitches. Finally, knit a lead needle. Cut the thread after the main body is complete. Wrap and fix in the middle with gold thread. After the bow is done, we attach it to the head. Next we start knitting the part of the lucky patch. First lock the edge and start the needle. Then knit 7 lock needles. Then return to the penultimate stitch. A thread of conditioning mountain on the back of the lock pin. Knit a short needle here. Knit it in sequence at the back. A total of 6 short needles were crocheted. 6 stitches end, lock a stitch at the back, and turn it over. The number of needles in the 2nd to 6th rows remains unchanged. Knit 6 short needles in each row. End of 6th row. Next we use the gold thread. Weave a circle of short needles around the edge of the fabric. Finally, we use the black line. Show off the word "foo" on the support piece, then fix it to the body. Next we weave a chain of locking pins. Secure it to the neck as part of the scarf. Last step, we put the eyes and the mouth on the head. So our little snow rabbit is done. The content of this issue is here. See you next time.